Hello, everybody. Welcome to session. Today, I will share with you why everybody should learn how to hack and why we should hack. My name is Helen Oakley, and I am one of the board members for CyberX. I work for SAP as security architect, and I'm also co-founder of Leading Cyber Ladies, a partner to this event, this conference. And I'm also a teacher as part of Hack Student, where we educate kids in cybersecurity. So today, I want to ask you one question and take a moment and think about it. So when I ask you, how would you defend your organization? You might think about different ways of what controls you will implement. Maybe you'll think about some security solution from snake-hole enterprises that you want to implement in your organization. And it goes on and on. But when I ask you, how would you hack your organization? What would you think? Maybe you'll think, oh, there is a security guard who goes on a lunch during the lunchtime, and there is a receptionist, she's usually alone, and she's busy, so maybe I can come by and pretend I'm somebody else, maybe somebody for interview, and give her a USB to print my resume because I'm so worried and I forgot to do this, and just give her this USB stick with malicious code and so on. And what's happening now? Now you are actually enumerating vulnerabilities, and you are getting into your hacker mindset. So what is hacker mindset? And usually we might think, oh, it's probably like here, some guy sitting there in a hoodie with the mask on, right? We don't know who he is, and he's just typing, yeah. But let's think differently. It can be anyone, really. Anyone. Pretend, like here is a lady with the blonde hair. You will never think she could hack you anyhow, but they're actually very, very good hackers that can do really good social engineering techniques and beyond to get through the all different obstacles and actually penetrate your organization. Now, hackers can be anyone, and they can attack from different angles, the angles that you don't expect. Well, when I tell you about getting into hacker mindset, do I ask you to do something bad? No, of course not. Hacking without authorization is illegal, so definitely don't take this session as I'm teaching you or asking you to do something illegal. And I give you a simple example. I educate kids. Me and other volunteers from Hack Student Organization, we go to schools and we teach kids to hack. Why do we teach them to hack? Well, because we want to channel their creativity into right direction. Actually, hacking is quite creative task. And when we want to explain between right and wrong, we give them a simple related example. We ask them, for example, would you go in your school at night? How would you get into your school? How would you get inside? And they go, well, the doors are closed, everything is closed, so maybe I would break through the window. I'm like, wait a minute, you would do that? They're like, no, of course not, that's illegal. I'm like, well, what do you think you're doing when you're trying to hack school's website? It's same. You're trying to break into their digital perimeter through some walls and trying to hack, like break something. So there is like a aha moment. Yes, you're right. You know, it's very easy just to ask your question. What are you doing? Is it right or wrong? And of course, never ever do test or do any activities without authorization from the respective parties. Now, of course, when we talk about hackers, we talk about different types of hackers, and they are black hat hackers, right? Those who are doing bad things for bad reasons. And then there are white hat hackers, like ethical hackers. So today, when I'm asking you to get into your hacker mindset, I'm asking you to get into your ethical hacker mindset and think, what would you do to hack your organization or perhaps yourself as a person, and to see what are the ways are possible to do that. Now, I want you to learn to hack because I believe that's the only way we can rebuild cybersecurity. Because not understanding hacking creates paralyzing fear of cybersecurity. In other words, you cannot understand the defense if you cannot understand the offense. So that's simple. That's why I would like you to think as a hacker and try to hack so you understand the offense in order to implement better defense. So what is hacking? Well, hacking actually can be many things, right? Hacking is something, is making something, whatever that is, or someone, if we are hacking a person, right, to do what is not intended to do, right? So social engineering, simple technique is somebody calls you and tries to get some information out of you. You don't intend to give them information, but they trick you into giving that information. So technically, they're hacking you, right? And this is what hacking is all about, is to do something that is not intended. And simple example is the famous hackathons when big organizations actually gathered all kind of experts who do some IoT devices or coding or anything. And they're actually calling hacking is to take something existing and create, invent something new out of it. Yeah, something that is not intended. So in other words, we hack to find other ways and new ways of doing something. And apparently along the way, we find vulnerabilities. And bad hackers, bad actors, they exploit these vulnerabilities to use them and to misuse those vulnerabilities. So let me bring something here for you. I have now the browser here. I hope you can see. It's big enough. I try to maximize the font. And I'll go to vulnerable website. So like I said, never try to, even for learning purposes, test to do something, test something, some other website. Even if it's your organization, you're not allowed to do that. That's a illegal activity. So there are open source resources that you can use in order to learn how to hack and different techniques. So here, this is the OWASP Do Shop, very vulnerable website for you to learn different vulnerabilities. In fact, some of the vulnerabilities we look at are still on the top 10 list of the OWASP. So even today in our advanced technology, we still have a lot of vulnerabilities like SQL injection, for example. Now let's talk about a little bit that SQL injection. First of all, I see here we have an account. Yeah, so in account, there is a login page. So that's interesting. If I go on a website, if I want to find something, I will look at the website and see if they have any member accounts, if they have any login pages. And that's the first thing I want to find if it's vulnerable, if there's something I can do about it to escalate privileges, to steal maybe credentials, or just see if I can impersonate somebody. Now it's asking me for email and password. So let me see. Usually, there is a way to gather information before you do an attack. And I'll talk about this in a little bit, but first let me show you quickly. So if I go to, every website has something about them, yeah, about them, maybe on the website, maybe on a social network or so on. So I go in about us and I see here a different, now that it's gonna load. Okay, so there is a customer feedback. And notice here, there is an email. It's partially hidden, but I could see the email is at JewShop, yeah, email. So let me go back, and I could guess that maybe this company organization has an admin account with that email. So as an admin, let me try to actually log in here as an admin. Now, here comes the fun part, password. I don't know where's the password. But before that, before I submit anything, I'll go and simply, without even using any fancy tools, I'm just going to use the browser development tool, which is built in my browser, and see what I can actually learn from the site when I'm loading it. So now that I'm going to write something here, and let me show you what I'm writing. Let's say I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Still one of the top passwords. Anyway, let's try to log in. Okay, so what's happening here? First of all, I'm going to look at the network, right, and response and request. One more thing I want to mention, aside of the login, I can actually learn quite a lot of things about website just to looking through these development tools that are loading as I load pages. For example, here is the server type. And actually, I will also mention later on, you can learn some vulnerabilities from that server. For example, there are a lot of misconfigurations that are done by different companies. And misconfiguration is one of the top errors that are done by operations, misconfiguring the cloud systems, the web applications, which is exposing unnecessary the risk. For example, a version of web server that I can find that might have some vulnerabilities that I can exploit. But anyway, let's go further. So I want to look at the request, and let me zoom a little bit more. Okay, so this is interesting. Yeah, I see request. First of all, note that this is in clear text. Yeah, so that's another vulnerability, that you see the email and password in a clear text. Okay, so that's good. Now, what's happening in the back? I'm sending a request that's telling the system, the application server, that there is a user whose email is admin@JewShop, and notice, and password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now it's gonna respond to me, invalid email or password. Okay, fine, I failed. Now, is failure something bad? No, actually failure is something that hackers are really good at. We love failure. It energizes us. It keeps pushing us to the boundaries of the system that we tinker with, right? We like a failure. We learn from failures, and it spikes our curiosity as well. And as I always say, curiosity is one of the biggest traits in cybersecurity experts and hackers, because we want to know, we want to learn what the system does, right? What else can we do here? Another way. So now this request, remember I told you, it says the user, let this user whose email is admin@JewShop, and the password 12345. Now, using some simple example of SQL, here we have or 1 equal, oops, typos, or 1 equal 1. Okay, so what's happening here? I'm saying I'm gonna send the request to the server saying that, is there a user whose email is admin@jushop or 1 equal 1? So what's happening? I don't know if you remember, there is an old joke about mathematician and his wife who just gave a birth to a child. And wife is saying, hey, darling, is this a boy or girl? And he's responding, yes, it's a boy or girl. So it's a computer's predicament to reply logically. And this is why when I add a comma here, I'm kind of closing the SQL statement. And after that, instead of going into the password statement, I'm telling them, or 1 equal 1. And computer's like, hey, let's see. Hey, of course, 1 equal 1. What are you talking about, right? So that's a little intro. That's hacking is really about finding the ways how things not supposed to work, right? So when we are developing applications, we always think about how to make it work, right? How to make it with the happy path. But hackers think, okay, what else can I do now? So let me proceed a little bit further. Okay. Let's go a little bit, let's learn a little bit about attack kill chain. And attack kill chain has many steps in it. It starts with reconnaissance. Actually, before reconnaissance, attackers define their goal. And again, depending what we're dealing with, it can be different goal. It can be a goal of hacking an individual, right? Hacking you as an individual, and you're getting access to your bank account or your SAM account, right? And maybe steal your money or steal your identity, perhaps. Or maybe it's getting into organization and stealing data from organization. Or maybe it's disruption and basically, like in Stuxnet case, there is a disruption where that was deployed and it caused a lot of damage to the equipment, financial damage, and et cetera, et cetera. So of course, there is first a goal, what they want to achieve. And then there goes reconnaissance. And that's actually, some say it's even the biggest chunk of the work. It's not represented here as the biggest, but it is. Because the more information you gather about your target, the better your chances are for actually deploying your attack, orchestrating your attack, and executing and getting your final result that you want to have. And at the end, you will also erase all your footprints, close all your ports and everything, depending on what you do, right? So reconnaissance is about gathering information about target. So also what I wanted to mention here, that during the different steps, the different techniques are used, yeah, and there are different types of hacking. And usually for more complicated hacks that we hear, like SolarWinds, right, or Stuxnet, or so on, there are more than one person involved. There's a group of people perhaps that involved executing that attack because it's so complicated. There is so much to know. It comes from, of course, there's maybe some web applications, some wireless network hacking, right? Physical infrastructure, social engineering. So everything comes together really as a hacker teamwork executing this attack. Now, that I mentioned about disruptionware, such as ransomware and other sophisticated malware like Stuxnet. By the way, it's also available as a service, ransomware as a service and malware as a service. So that expands our risks in industry, because all attackers need to do is actually get the information, think how they're going to deliver that attack, and then exploit it. Yeah, the exploitation and installation of that attack using provided services from already malware infrastructures. Yeah, and it takes a large amount of attacks today. But disruptionware, like I said, it comes only in step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here in installation. Yeah, so let's talk about what comes before, because that's usually the unknown part. And I think that's in many cases where we fail, because we don't exactly understand how we are exposing ourselves, how is our organization is exposed in order to protect ourselves better. Okay, reconnaissance. It's all about information gathering. Yeah, and there are two types of reconnaissance. There's passive and active. Passive is something that you collect on internet, social media, websites, something without directly interacting with your target. And active is more directly interacting with the target using more specific tools, perhaps, and etc. And it means that you might scan them specifically for vulnerabilities. You might make a call as some call center, and use social engineering attacks. That is more active, so you directly interacting with your target. And I put a link at the bottom. OSINT framework has a very good overview of all different reconnaissance techniques and tools based on what is your target. And it's good to learn, it's good to understand, yeah, what is out there. Now, I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into the passive reconnaissance. And here I'm presenting as 3 tools, and trust me, there are so many. It's just an example. I'm not going to go through everything. It's just too time-consuming. OSINT on itself is a separate domain in cybersecurity, and there's a lot to know. But something fun I wanted to bring, for example, if I would like to gather some information, I would use Google Docs. That's Google Docs, also sometimes called as Google hacking. But you actually are not hacking Google, you using Google queries, design queries that people usually are not even aware of, to extract information, very specific information. And I'll show you in a little bit. Now, there are other tools that I wanted to bring up. For example, Maltego tool is also an information gathering tool, and it has a very great data representation. So it can find all your social media that are assigned to you, maybe your company and all the employees' social medias and all the data, what servers are there assigned to IPs and etc. etc. So it has this amazing, really great representation. So imagine how much information can be gathered just by online open source information that is out there. And Harvester is another tool that is used to gather different employees, for example, names, subdomains. And in example here, I don't know if you can see, for example, it's looking here for all LinkedIn accounts, emails within Palo Alto networks. Yeah, and as a result, it would return all the emails with people from Palo Alto and their LinkedIn account, their title that is currently on LinkedIn, their name, first and last name, and you will have this information not even going to LinkedIn. right? You don't even have to click on the account, you just have it. So all this is publicly available. It has different integrations and different ways to automate it and etc. So here I'm coming back to the website. And this time I'm gonna go to Google to use some Google Docs. So I'm gonna go google.ca. All right, so first of all, let me search myself for fun. And I really recommend you do that occasionally too. You'll be surprised, maybe, maybe not, I don't know, what you can find about yourself. Okay, so here I have some, okay, my last Twitter, haha. Here we have some information, yeah, and of course there are other Helen Oakleys in the world. I'm not the only one, but for some reason it popped up my stuff. So maybe Google knows about me and what I'm looking for. Okay, creepy, but let's move on. This session is not about that. So now I would like to use something more specific. So Google Dork has very specific search operators to extract the information that you're looking for. And I'll do all in text. And I want to go Helen Oakley in quotes. So this is kind of like ID. And I may have even more specific information here, maybe similar, but it has more stuff. Okay, enough about me. What I wanted to show you is actually if I go to a website that has a lot of interesting information that I can find about many things. So, and here it's an exploit database. It's open source. Everything is there. Whatever the exploits are there, I can find them for any technology, for whatever. So here we have Google Hacking Database, yeah, which is also Google Docs. Okay, so interesting. I have all these different queries, and let's go back to google.ca again. So I looked for myself, but what if I will look for something like this? So I have file type clear, right? I'm looking for some file type. Actually, I defining its PDF format. Site, I have .mil, so military. And I want to look for everything specifically mentioned as top secret. Ooh, now we're getting juicy, yeah? So let's see what it gives us. And hopefully there isn't any top secret really published here, but the point is, not gonna go through all that, but the point is it actually returns a lot of information here. And this is how you could find also if there's anything specific from exposed about your organization like that. So let's go back here and I'll show you another example. And here we have filters. And in the filters, I want to look for files that containing passwords. Ooh, it's another good one. And I'm gonna do another quick search as db_pass. Okay, so now all files that containing passwords are actually shown. Yeah, and I will go to this one. Okay, so it's an example here that somebody found this query. They uploaded a query, and actually you can also find another query and upload it here if something new comes up, and I can go directly to the search of this. And here I'll see all these results, which are quite scary. For example, here is a database password and password and clear text. Okay, enough of this. One more example and we'll move on. I wanna look for something juicy, and this might be also interesting for those who hosting their own websites, using WordPress maybe. Anyway, let's look for something juicy. There's even category like that. This is funny. Or not. Let's see. Something juicy. Okay. What do we have here? Good results. Let's go to this one. And you see, it's quite recent. Somebody found this vulnerability. Okay, so this vulnerability is in social network tabs plugin version 1.7 for WordPress. And there is a vulnerability listed to that. Let's copy paste. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna show you that there are more of that in vulnerability database, NVDB, okay. I wanna search for vulnerability. Come on. Okay, here you go. Okay, so the vulnerability that I found here in this dork that exposes that vulnerability. So it basically it returns all websites that are possibly using this WordPress plugin that might have this vulnerability, which allows remote attackers to discover Twitter access token, you know, and all this access details. And that leads to Twitter account takeover. If, you know, who knows, maybe that's one of the ways actually Trump's account was stolen or whatever that was there. Okay. Anyway, so you can read all the details about vulnerabilities in National Vulnerability Database. That's another open source, so everything is there. You just need to know what to look for. Okay, so that if I click on this, and I'm gonna go into the first one. That's a lot of text gibberish, but you know, you see that it's bringing me to this website, and there are some retweets, yeah, with this account or that account or whatever. So let's go to this website, and I'll show you that this is exactly there. Fatal error. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Not all demos go smooth, right? Okay, so if I go to that, you will find this Twitter on that website. I know because I looked. Okay, trust me, I didn't break it. But the point is, if you go, you'll find in somewhere like news or about, you'll find this Twitter gadgets that actually show this accounts, show this retweets. And in fact, it seems like some of them might be retweeted, I don't know, whatever. So that's the information that you can find with just Google Docs. There's a lot of information. And now I will go back to my slides and we'll move on to the active reconnaissance. So active reconnaissance is where attackers need to apply more caution, because the threat detection systems have a lot of capability actually detect when something is being scanned. And those tools are scanning different things, and they have different capabilities, of course, but there are more tools, right? So the point is you gathered your information. Now you gathered your public information, you know who works there, what they do. You might implement your way of delivery later on. Yeah, your attack. Now you want to scan the system and see, are there any vulnerabilities? Are there any network misconfiguration, server misconfiguration, and other exploits or vulnerabilities that you can exploit actually. So after that, when reconnaissance has been done, and it actually can continue going at some point, right, while you're still working through your attack. But then the attackers decide on a weaponization, and that's find or create the attack to exploit the weakness, right? So it can be like something, again, in Metasploit, some tools. It can be social engineering toolkit, right? Depending on what it is. And then once you decide on your weapons, you deliver your attack. And the attack delivery is coming different ways. In Stuxnet case, for example, it was through USB, malicious USB. In your maybe personal target, it's gonna come through phishing, or maybe organizational target also through phishing, you know, but delivery is different methods. In case of SolarWinds, however, which is a supply chain attack, it was done through trusted software. So that's a completely different story, and and why it's so interesting, because they have hacked SolarWinds, which was trusted, the Orion, right, software, and all other organizations that used it downloaded the malicious package with the upload. So what happened there, their delivery was, so the authorized system administrators, right, they fetched and installed the updates through these packages that are distributed by SolarWinds. So it's trusted, right? Why not to trust? And then this package had an update with different classes that implemented this backdoor attack. So the delivery was very sophisticated, right? Sometimes it's not so sophisticated, but based on your recon, based on your goal, or the weapons you have, you plan your delivery to target. And then there comes exploitation. So you delivered it, somebody clicked on that malicious link or downloaded that malicious file or whatever that's going to be, and there is an exploit. Now, with the exploit, actually, before I go there, maybe I have another quick show and tell on the Jew shop. Yeah, so I showed you a little bit of SQL injection, but then, you know, the exploits can be different. So this is web application exploits. And for me, for example, I want to know if I can, for example, do something malicious with the cross-site scripting. Well, right now, this one didn't really work, but there are different ways. So let's try something else. So I am, okay. So you see the pop-up here. So what I did, I said, okay, in this search field, I wanted to put in iframe. So you see the square here. I just fooled the system because this is vulnerable site. It doesn't have any input field sensitization. So it also looked at the script, and it executed the script. Yeah. And here I have JavaScript alert, hello. So that was my pop-up message. Now with this, I can do more than that. I can actually go to console, and I can test if this script can help me log cookies, for example. And I will spare you from the typing here. So here I have also JavaScript, and then console log. Yeah, here is I open in development tools console log, and then I'm saying hello. And again, now you see here, I have hello. So it means that this website actually responding to my scripts, it's not protected, and I can potentially steal somebody's cookies and steal document cookies with the authentication. I can even craft a link. So for example, you go on an account website for your bank account, and I send you an email, and I crafted a cookie in that link, the phishing, that when you click it, you are authenticated in your bank. And when that happened, the cookie with your authentication and all details actually sent to my server. I can craft it in a link and just send it to you. Of course, I'm not going to do that, but I'm saying that this is possible, and that's how a lot of phishing attacks actually happen. So keep that in mind. And again, like I said, if we understand the offense, we'll be better understanding the defense and be able to protect us. Okay, moving on. Once we've done our exploit, we are moving to our next stages: installation, command and control, and actions on objectives. Okay, so installation on the payload. For example, we want to gain persistent access, right? In Stuxnet example, there was a payload that was uploaded to internal network, and it's propagated itself, and it was looking for different ways to gain access to different machines across the network. Command and control, again, in a Stuxnet example, it was attacking, it was spinning the turbines while displaying to operators. There are no issues, right? So that's how it was remotely controlling the system. And then actions on objectives. So also lateral movements, data exfiltration, depending what there is, disruption and so on. So those work not always one after another, they sometimes working together, but those are the stages and different actions that happening in kill chain. And if you Google Stuxnet, I really don't like say Google. If you search for Stuxnet, it's 11-year-old issue, use case, you'll see that here it explains, okay, infection, step 1, what happens with USB. But actually, if you look at this, it starts explaining from installation, from step 5. And we don't know, how they came up with everything, what they looked for. And this is why I think that understanding the beginning stages of kill chain will help us to make it more difficult for attackers to structure their attack and basically be more creative in our defense, right? Okay, so wrapping up, why we should learn to hack, right? So there are different stages, and depending on your expertise, your interest, there are people who like to learn about malware. How does it work, right? For example, ransomware or anything else. They create the sandboxes, virtual machines where they test it, and it's also a separate domain. And like I said, OSINT, reconnaissance, right, in the beginning, it's also separate domain. So depending on what is your interest, where I am, for example, working as security architect, I'm at application level, so I know better web applications. But wherever your interest is, it's always beneficial to learn how to hack, to understand how you can protect yourself. And reconnaissance is especially useful also in your personal life, because you will understand how to take care of your own protections. Now, I like this quote from Karen Al-Azari, who is a founder of Leading Cyber Ladies, the group that we have here in Canada as well. Hackers show us what is possible They force us to evolve. She's also saying that hackers are immune system to us, for us, their immune system. So they help us to protect. And the more we know about hacking, the more we pay attention to it, the better we're going to be protected. Now, how you will learn to hack, what to do, where to start. I have a lot of questions like that. So first of all, learn about technology. Yeah. In order to hack something, whether it's, hacking your recipe and making something else out of it, or hacking a technology, you have to know how it works first, how the different ingredients in your recipe work in order to make something new by hacking it, right? So same goes with technology. Learn technology to understand. And if you can code, anything is possible, right? But if you cannot code, don't get discouraged as well. There are a lot of useful resources that you can learn. There are nice apps. My son recently just started to play this app Mimo, which actually teaches you through different coding techniques, right? And different languages. So there are plenty of resources. In our age of information, you can learn anything, just as long as you want to learn. Next, research exploits. It's when you don't know. Of course, you might not find the exploits yourself, and I would suggest not to do that because simply you might end up doing something illegal. So I don't recommend. While you're learning, look for different articles and learn about the hacks and learn about breaches and go through YouTube channel. There are plenty of resources where people actually explain how certain things work and why this hack actually is exploitable, right? Why this vulnerability is exploitable. So again, depending on your area of expertise, do that research and learn what's happening around you. Next, learn safely. Now, when we want to do some hands-on, there are a few things to consider. Of course, like I said, you cannot hack, you cannot play around with something that is not yours. Going even in your organization website or just some website, you cannot do that. It's illegal. There are open source resources that you can explore and use it for your testing. And another good way of learning is play CTF, capture the flag. For example, Leading Cyber Ladies, we had just recently in February, global CTF, where people from around the world have been hacking this, doing different hacking techniques to try to gain some points and win. So it's a really good way to learn about all these techniques. And last but not least, you're learning, you experimenting, you testing something, implement those measures. Don't just let them sit there in your mind. Do them, improve continuously, improve your personal security posture, improve your organizational security posture. Because why? Because we learning to hack to implement better defense, right? So let's learn to hack. Now, I like to close my session today with the comment or quote from me. Let's make a world a safer place by learning to hack. Thank you. So now I will answer some questions. I see there are a few questions. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to read the question. So your example attack recon could easily be stopped via input validation, right? The attack on a website, on a vulnerable website do shop, yes. The validation, sanitization, and implementing those different frameworks, depending on what language is used, right? But that's one of the ways. But there's always a defense in depth. So it's not only the front end that you need to protect, but because you can easily bypass with some tools the front end. So you need to think about further measures. But recon, it's actually go beyond. So for recon, you need to think a little bit more. It's not just sanitization of fields. Next question. How do you recommend small organizations with one IT lead keep on top of all the exploits? That's a challenge that small business is facing, and it's acknowledged by industry, of course. So the best, learn, implement. So there are multiple steps actually. Yeah, it's implement all the security controls in your application by following the recommendations like an OWASP, right? So go and read on OWASP the cheat sheet, how to protect from SQL injections, from cross-site scripting, and so on, based on the code that you use, the language that you use. And of course, if you hosting yourself, there's so many errors that can be done. If it's possible to host on, I don't know, Google Cloud or AWS or whatever, I would suggest that, because then you allocating a lot of risks into infrastructure, and you would need to research on secure configurations, right, from that aspect. So that will make a little bit easier for a smaller company to keep a little bit on top. And of course, get in touch with some security experts who can assess your organization and your application to recommend further measures. Next question, could you comment on machine, man in the middle, I guess, machine in the middle, machine in the middle, attacks, AI being used to exploit vulnerabilities? I haven't honestly researched a lot into that. I know that there are a lot of automated attacks. AI algorithms can be very complicated, and it's expensive as well to do something like this. So I would think more automation would be as as big a risk right now. But honestly, it's something that maybe I need to research as well. Thanks for the question. Okay, do we have any more questions? Okay, one more. Could you discuss how hacking is also now realized on devices like cell phones? For example, what's SIM jacking? Again, I am expert in certain fields. I'm not expert in every possible technology and everything. There are experts who are specializing in mobile hacking, right, and phone hacking, and SIM jacking, I'm not very familiar, to be honest. It's best to do some research on the side. But I know that I read somewhere that iPhones are actually easier to hack than Androids for the reason because it's more consistent in their technology. Androids has so many different aspects, different apps and different configurations that can be done, and it's a bit not impossible, but it can be already a little bit harder to find that vulnerability gap. But anyway, everything has some sort of vulnerability. Okay, next question. If someone wants to get into white hat hacking, how do you get into that kind of role? Well, that's a more, I guess, a career question. So I did penetration testing in the past, and how I got is basically by volunteering into one. I was very curious. I was very interested in this. I remember I was part of the team, and I worked in DevOps and QA kind of role and release management. And then I started researching into penetration tests to improve security posture a while ago. And that got my curiosity. So I actually volunteered myself into this role. And basically, you can find your path. There's no one path. There's so many different directions that can lead you into this role. If you understand the technology, if you understand how it works, you would be able to get into ethical hacking role and become a penetration tester as well. All right. Any more questions? We have 5 minutes left. Let's see. There might be some delay. Okay, so I guess there are no more questions. All right, one more. Any thoughts on recent Microsoft Exchange breach? That's an email server. No, I don't. I don't have haven't done research in that aspect. To be honest, again, it's a little slightly different domain, more of a operational of IT operational. So a good one. All right, CyberX team. Any closing notes? No. All right. So learn to hack and yeah, explore and make sure you do it safely. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.